His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Jai Deva Founder Jai Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Vantra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Jai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 4, Chapter number 17, titled Maharaj Prithu becomes angry at the earth. Text number 8. Sutta Vacha Chodito Vidure Nevam Chodito Vidure Nevam Vasudeva Katam Prati Vasudeva Katam Prati Prasasyatam Pritamana Prasasyatam Pritamana Maitreya Pratyabhasata Maitreya Pratyabhasata Sutavacha Chodito Vidure Nevam Vasudeva Katam Prati Prasasyatam Pritamana Maitreya Pratyabhasata Sutavacha Chodito Vidure Neva Vasudeva Katam Prati Prasasyatam Pritamana Maitreya Pratyabhasata. Sutta Vacha Chodito Vidure Neva Vasudevam Kata Prati Prasasyatam Pritamana Maitreya Pratyabhasata. Krishnadas. Sutta Vacha. Sutta Goswami said, Choditaha, inspired, Vidurena, by Vidura, Evam, thus, Vasudeva, of Lord Krishna, Katam, narration, Prati, about, Prasasya, praising, Tam, him, Pritam Manaha, being very pleased, Maitreya, the Saint Maitreya, Pratyabhasata, replied. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation, Sutta Goswami continued. When Vidura became inspired to hear of the activities of Lord Krishna in his various incarnations, Maitreya, also being inspired and being very pleased with Vidura, began to praise him. Then Maitreya spoke as follows. Purport. Talk of Krishna Katha, or topics about Lord Krishna, or his incarnations, is spiritually so inspiring that the reciter and hearer are never exhausted. That is the nature of spiritual talks. We have actually seen that one can never become satiated by hearing the conversations between Vidura and Maitreya. Both of them are devotees, and the more Vidura inquires, the more Maitreya is encouraged to speak. A symptom of spiritual talks is that no one feels tired. Thus, upon hearing the questions of Vidura, the great sage Maitreya did not feel disgusted, but rather felt encouraged to speak at greater length. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-salakaya Chakshulmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we're continuing our discussion on Maharaj Prithu. So today we are hearing about how when Vidura, he further inquires about Maharaj Prithu from Maitreya Rishi. Maitreya Rishi, he is very pleased with Vidura's questions. So Vidura, he is very eager to learn more about Maharaj Prithu. And he asks many different questions at the start of this chapter. And Maitreya Rishi, when he hears these different questions being put forward by Vidura, he feels very happy because from these questions, he can see or he can understand that actually this person I'm talking to, he's liking what I'm speaking and he wants to hear more and more. In this way, Maitreya Rishi is very pleased. And in the purport today, Prabhupada is saying that this is the nature of Krishna Katha, or this is the nature of talks about Krishna, that one never becomes tired of hearing about Krishna. The more one hears, the more he wants to hear. And Prabhupada says this is not the same thing with material subject matter. Material subject matter, you hear once, you hear twice. After that, you don't want to hear about the same thing again and again. But in spiritual subject matters, Prabhupada mentions that one never feels tired. One can go on hearing the same pastime again and again and again and again and find newer and newer realizations. Find the same subject matter ever fresh. Like there's one verse in the 12th canto of Bhagavatam. Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam navam. So this verse explains the qualities of Krishna Katha, or talks about Krishna. Tadeva ramyam. Ramyam means talks about Krishna is very, very attractive. It's very, very pleasing to the ear. Tadeva ramyam ruchiram. Ruchiram means very, very tasty, or very, very relishable or palatable. So talks about Krishna is very, very tasty for our ears, for our minds, for our hearts. When one feels, he feels very enlivened. So Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam navam. Navam navam means it's ever fresh. Every time we hear, we feel like we've never heard about it before. So navam navam means newer and newer. When one hears about Krishna, he'll find newer and newer realizations. He'll find newer and newer insights. For example, I remember a few years ago, Nrsimha Chaturdasi was coming up. And usually before any festival, what I do, I go online and try to find some lectures, of my Guru Maharaj, of Srila Prabhupada on that particular festival. And I try to hear, the festival class before the actual festival coming up. For example, now Gaur Purnima is coming up. So I'm listening to some lectures of Prabhupada, from Chaitanya Charitamrita. And I'll download some lectures of Gaur Purnima that my Guru Maharaj gave in past years, and I'll listen. So a few years ago, Nrsimha Chaturdasi was coming up, so I downloaded some lectures of my Guru Maharaj that he had given in past years about Lord Nrsimhadev. So one of those lectures, I remember I was hearing, and I downloaded, I think, 3 or 4 different lectures. One Nrsimha Chaturdasi lecture in 2010, one in 2012, one in 15, like that, from different years. I listened to one, it was very nice. And then next week I listened to another Nrsimha Chaturdasi lecture, and it was very nice. Then again, I listened to a third Nrsimha Chaturdasi lecture, and again I was finding it very nice. And the third time I was listening to the same Nrsimha Chaturdasi lecture, I was, I got this realization. I was thinking that, this pastime of Lord Nrsimhadev, I've heard so many times before. And the same pastime I'm hearing again and again, recited by my Guru Maharaj in different years. But still, I don't feel, that, I'm still enjoying it, I'm still finding it ever fresh. Then another thought came to my mind. Then I thought, what about my Guru Maharaj? He's like in his 70s, He's been practicing bhakti for 50 years. In the past 50 years, how many times must he have heard the pastimes of Nrsimhadev? And how many times must he would have given a class on Nrsimhadev? But still, even after hearing the same pastime and even after talking about the same lila for hundreds and thousands of times, he doesn't feel bored talking about it, and he doesn't feel satiated, talking about it. He doesn't think, oh, okay, again Nrsimha Chaturdasi, I have to talk about the same pastime which I talked about for the last 50 years. No, he doesn't feel bored talking about it or hearing about it. So in this way, I got this realization that actually these pastimes, these books, this philosophy is not material. We can go on reading the same pastimes, we can go on hearing the same pastimes, and we can never become tired. So I remember a few years ago, I got that realization. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Raja Vijja Raja Guyam Pavitram Yadam Uttamam Prataksha Vavagam Dharmam. So Prataksha, Krishna says that this science of bhakti is not something theoretical, but it's something that we can practically experience with our own senses. That's what Prataksha means. That's something that we can perceive through our own material senses. So, we hear in the Shastra, theory that, okay, talks about Krishna is different to material talks. Material talks, you can't hear the same thing again and again. After some time, you'll get bored. But talks about Krishna, it's ever fresh. Okay, so that's the theory. But that theory of Bhagavatam, we can practically experience in our lives. For example, the example I was giving, of hearing the same pastime of Nrsimhadev. Every year, we celebrate Nrsimha Chaturdasi, but every year when we hear the pastime of Nrsimhadev, we don't get bored. Same way, when Damodar month comes, every year we hear the same pastime of Lord Damodar. And Damodar month goes for 30 days, right? And in that 30 days, different devotees will talk about the same pastime. One Bhagavatam class, one devotee will talk about Damodar Leela, another Bhagavatam class, again another devotee will talk about the same pastime from different perspective, different angle. So in that month of Damodar, every year we'll hear the same pastime at least a dozen times, from different devotees. But still we don't feel bored. Oh, why the same pastime of Damodar? Why can't we talk about something else? Why can't we hear about something else? Still every year it's ever fresh. So in this way Krishna says in Gita that Prataksha Vagam Dharmam Susukam Kartum Avyayam, that this science of Krishna consciousness is not something theoretical, it's something you can practically perceive through your own senses. For example, this point that we're discussing today, that talks about Krishna is ever fresh. This is something all of us have practical realization that yes, this is true. I remember when I was in high school, I had a lot of Kami friends and they used to all be into music. They used to listen to R&B, hip-hop, rap music, and they used to download, the latest songs by latest artists, which is in the top charts. So I wanted to also, mingle with the group, and be part of the group. So I also started imitating them, downloading, different songs by famous artists. And then to try and impress them, I would say, oh, this song is so good, this song by this artist. And then they would hear a particular song that was newly released for 1 week, 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, if you talk about the same song, they will say, oh, that's an old song, this is old now. Now this new song has come, Now we're not listening to that old song anymore, we're listening to this new song. So in this way, every 2-3 weeks, they will, for 1 week, they will just focus, on few songs, which is the latest. After some time, they'll get bored. That same song won't be appealing to them. Then they'll find some other song, newer song, and then like this, they'll keep updating their playlist. So this is the nature of material sound vibrations. After some time, we become tired or we become sick of hearing the same thing, but not with spiritual sound vibration. We can go on hearing the same pastimes again and again and never get bored. Same way with the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Same mantra we're chanting for so many days and years. And you look at our spiritual masters, they've been chanting the same mantra for so many decades, but no one gets tired of it. So that's what Prabhupada is talking about in today's purport. So going back to this verse in 10th canto, so not 10th canto, 12th canto, this verse talks about different effects or different qualities of Krishna Katha. Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam navam, tadeva sasvan manaso mahotsavam. So we talked about Ramyam. Ramyam means talks about Krishna is something that is very attractive. Immediately when we hear talks about Krishna, our ears will become attracted. And Ramyam, Tadeva Ramyam, Ruchiram. Ruchiram means it's very, very tasty. It's very, very pleasing and pleasurable for the ears, for the mind and the hearts. And then Navam Navam. Navam Navam means one who hears Krishna Katha, he will find new and new taste in Krishna Katha. He will never get bored. Then Tadeva Ramyam Ruchiram Navam Navam Tadeva Sasvan Manaso Mahotsavam. Manaso means the mind, right? Mahotsava means festival. So Mana Mahotsava means that when we hear about Krishna, it's like a festival for the mind. So you can imagine, last festival was Nityananda Trayodasi. So generally whenever any festival comes up, everyone becomes very excited, right? And very happy and like, wow, Nityananda Trayodasi is coming or Gaur Purnima is coming. It's going to be so nice, it's going to be so good. We're going to have big kirtan, there'll be a big feast. We're going to have nice, kirtan, nice lecture, we're going to sing, we're going to dance. Everyone is so excited and pumped up. So that same feeling we will get when we hear about Krishna. Our minds, they experience that same feeling when we hear about Krishna. That's what Bhagavatam is describing. And that talks about Krishna is like a festival for the mind. Tadaiva Sasvan, Manaso Mahotsavam. Manaso means mind, Utsava means, Mahotsava means great festival. So it's like any kind of talks about Krishna, it's like a big festival for our minds. Tadeva Ramyam Ruchiram Navam Navam Tadeva Sasvan Manaso Mahotsavam Tadeva Sokar Navasosanam Ninam. Soka means lamentation or distress or misery. Arnava means ocean. So Sokarnava means an ocean full of misery or an ocean full of suffering or an ocean full of lamentation or distress. So it's mentioned, this verse mentions that this is our situation in the material world. All of us are suffering in an ocean full of misery. But this verse explains when we hear about Krishna, the ocean of misery that we're suffering in becomes immediately dried up. Generally, it's impossible, right, to dry up an ocean. We've heard about ponds being dried up. We've heard about lakes being dried up. We've even heard about rivers being dried up. But never, in the history of the world have we heard of an ocean being dried up, right? It's impossible. Ocean has unlimited water. How can an ocean dry up? But this verse says that because Krishna Katha is non-different from Krishna, he can do the impossible. Generally speaking, on our own efforts, it's impossible to overcome the ocean of misery, the ocean of mature existence. It's impossible. But Krishna can make the impossible possible. So when we're hearing Krishna Katha, we're actually personally associating with Krishna. Talks about Krishna is non-different from Krishna. So that's why when we hear about Krishna, the ocean full of suffering that we're suffering in becomes immediately dried up. Krishna makes the impossible possible. Just like when we come to take darshan of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, we might be going through some mental anxiety or not a good mood, but when we come to a temple and we just come in front of Radha Gopinath and just stare at them and just look at them, take darshan at them, the natural feeling for all of us is we feel very peaceful and we feel very happy. And we can't explain why, but just in general, when we look at them and we talk to them, take darshan, we feel peaceful, we feel calm, and we feel very happy and satisfied. Why? Because we understand that, that's not just the deity, that's Krishna himself standing there. So when we're in front of Krishna, what else more is there to be achieved? We feel just happy and satisfied, just standing in front of Krishna and Radharani and just taking darshan of them. What harm can come to us? We're there in their presence. So when we take darshan of Radha Gopinath, we feel happy and satisfied, we feel peaceful and calm because we have that realization that that's Krishna himself standing right there in front of me. So that's why we have that experience. That same experience Bhagavatam explains we should get when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam. That same experience Bhagavatam says we should get when we chant Hare Krishna or we hear any talks about Krishna. Why? Because just like over there, Krishna is personally present, standing watching from the altar. In the same way, Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. So when we are either reading Bhagavatam or hearing about Srimad Bhagavatam or talking about Bhagavatam, we're actually in the personal presence of Srimad Bhagavatam. If we hear, read or recite Bhagavatam in that mood, then we will also feel that same emotions as we do when we take darshan of Radha Gopinath. So just like when we take darshan of Radha Gopinath, we feel happy, peaceful, calm. That same feeling will come when we hear Bhagavatam or when we chant Hare Krishna. If we approach the holy name or if we approach Bhagavatam with that same mood, that actually this holy name is non-different from Krishna. But that same mood doesn't come. Generally when we chant, we like, oh man, I have to chant now, How many rounds is done? Okay, only 3 rounds finished. Then we calculate, okay, another 13 more to go. How much time will it take? Okay, maybe another 1 hour, 45 minutes, So when we chant with kind of like a, it's like some kind of chore we have to do, like we're on a cleaning roster. And then when it's our day to clean, we think, oh, okay, today is my day to clean. Okay, I have to go clean the corridor, I have to go clean the ashram, I have to go clean the toilets. So we have like that kind of mood, when it comes to chanting. Oh, now I have to chant like that. So why do we have that kind of, negative attitude? Because we don't have that realization that actually Krishna is personally present in front of me when I'm chanting Hare Krishna. Radharani is personally present in front of me. When we take darshan, we have that realization that yes, Krishna and Radharani are personally there. So that's why we feel happy and satisfied when we take darshan. But we don't feel happy, satisfied and blissful when we chant our japa, because we don't realize that when I chant Hare Krishna, Krishna and Radharani are personally present in front of me. So that's why we have to every day remind ourselves that actually when I'm chanting my japa, when I'm chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Krishna and Radharani are personally there, present with me. Prabhupada says in one letter that when we are chanting our japa, when we are chanting Hare Krishna, we should think in our mind that here is Krishna, here is Radharani. Like that we should think in our mind. When I'm chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna is here and Radharani is here. They're both present with me. With that mood, with that consciousness, we should chant. So when we train our minds to think that way or to understand or to try to get that realization that the holy name is non-different from Krishna, then with that same enthusiasm we take darshan of Radha Gopinath. With that same enthusiasm we will also chant our rounds. Just like we feel happy, blissful taking darshan of Radha Gopinath, and we feel like we can just stand there and just talk to them or just stare at them whole day, we don't feel satiated. That same feeling we will also experience when we chant Hare Krishna. We will feel, wow, this is so nice, and we will feel very calm, we will feel very peaceful, and we will feel very happy when we chant our japa. And instead of thinking, when will our rounds finish, we will think, man, this is so nice just chanting Hare Krishna. I can just keep on chanting whole day. This is so nice actually. So that same feeling will come only when we get that realization that Krishna and Radharani are personally present in the holy name. So that's something, all of us need to work on to try to get that realization that the holy name is non-different from Krishna. So in the same way, Shastra explains that the pastimes of Krishna, the narrations of Krishna coming from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, that is also non-different from Krishna. So with that same mood, we should also approach reading Bhagavatam or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. A few weeks ago, I was hearing my Guru Maharaj. He was giving one class in Mayapur, and one devotee was asking him this question, what is the proper mood in which we should hear Bhagavatam when we come to class? And my Guru Maharaj, he was mentioning interesting point. He was saying that when we come to attend Srimad Bhagavatam class or hear Bhagavatam, we should think that now I'm going to associate with Krishna. Now I'm going to be in Krishna's presence. With that mood of consciousness, one should come and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Not that today, okay, let me go and find out something new. Or today, this speaker is coming, he will, say some nice jokes or nice pastimes, will be fun. So not in that mood of gratifying our senses or not in the mood of getting some kind of spiritual entertainment. But we come to Bhagavatam class with the mood that Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. Let me come and personally associate with Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So with that mood, that consciousness, we should come and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Just like when we come to take darshan again, we feel very happy and enthusiastic because we understand, we have this mood that now I'm going to come and see Krishna and Radharani. So that's why we're very enthusiastic, because we have that realization. So that same realization we have to bring into the holy name and also into hearing Bhagavatam. When we're hearing Bhagavatam, we're actually personally associating with Krishna. Krishna, just like Krishna is non-different from his holy name, Krishna is also non-different from his pastimes. Krishna is non-different from Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we're at home or on the train or bus and we're reading Bhagavatam, we're actually personally associating with Krishna. Or when we're sitting in class and hearing Bhagavatam, we're actually personally associating with Krishna in the form of sound vibration. So that's something we can meditate on and pray to Krishna to give us realization of. But obviously, one question everyone has, that yes, we understand, Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna, that we should be enthusiastic. But when I come to class, I feel sleepy, my mind wanders what to do. So I think a few weeks ago, I was asking similar question to Ghanshyam Pr. He was giving class about importance of hearing, attentively and to be very focused in class like that. So at the end of the class, I was asking Ghanshyam Pr. that, you were mentioning about hearing attentively. For me, I was telling him that for me, sometimes for some speakers, when they speak, I find it easy to hear, attentively and very sincerely. But for certain few speakers, when they come and they give class, I find my mind wandering or I feel very sleepy in class. So I'm not able to have that same kind of taste in all the classes. Some classes I feel very enthusiastic and I'm very attentive and sincere. But other classes I find, the way the speaker speaks or narrates, I find it, I find myself a bit sleepy in class or my mind is wandering, I'm unable to focus. And Ghanshyam Pr. was saying that yes, that's true, for all of us, that, we'll feel connected with certain speakers, or certain speakers, when they talk, they will talk in a way that, we will feel sleepy, or we might feel, a little bored, or our mind will wander. So he said, yes, that's something that all of us go through. But he was saying, when we come to class, we should just come to class with that mood that, no matter who the speaker is, I will just sit and I will just try my best to sincerely hear. Because whatever the speaker is speaking, he is speaking from Bhagavatam, from Shastra. And Shastra is non-different from Krishna. So let me hear about Krishna sincerely and attentively. Why? Because this will please Radha Gopinath, this will please Prabhupada. And one practical tip Prabhu gave me was that before every class, you can make a short prayer to Radha Gopinath. That please bless me that I can hear the message of Srimad Bhagavatam very attentively and sincerely today. So this is something that all of us can do. Before the start of every class, we can just mentally offer this prayer to Radha Gopinath that, okay, now I'm here in this class, I'm going to hear about your pastimes. Please bless me so I can really focus and hear very sincerely your pastimes of Bhagavatam. And Gopinath will help us to stay awake. Gopinath will help us to focus and to be attentive in class, and it will help us to keep our mind, focused and not wander here and there. So offering prayer is not something that only the person who's speaking, he does or she does. So generally we think, okay, if we have to give class, that's the time, that we have to offer prayers. It's like, oh no, today I have to give class. What will I speak on, Or then we start feeling nervous and then we pray to Krishna or a spiritual master that, oh, today I have to give class, please help me. Please bless me so I can speak something that will inspire devotees to take shelter of your lotus feet. So offering prayer is not something that only the speaker does, before he gives class, but offering prayer is something that even the audience, they're supposed to do also. The persons who are hearing Bhagavatam, they're also supposed to do. So just like the speaker is praying to Krishna that, my dear Krishna, please engage me as an instrument, please empower me so I can speak something that will inspire the devotees to take shelter of your lotus feet. So just like the speaker is offering this prayer, at the same time, the hearer of Srimad Bhagavatam, they're also supposed to be offering prayer to Krishna. That, my dear Krishna, my mind wanders so much, I feel sleepy in class, please bless me so I can very attentively and sincerely hear Srimad Bhagavatam today in the class. So like this, it goes both ways. Both is important. Talking about Krishna is important. Hearing about Krishna is also equally important. So the person who is about to talk about Krishna, he prays to Krishna. Please bless me, empower me so I can properly talk. The person who is going to hear about Krishna, he also prays to Krishna. That, I can't hear properly on my own strength. Please bless me, please empower me so I can hear Srimad Bhagavatam class nicely and attentively today. So both ways it goes. And that's what Prabhupada is emphasizing today in today's purport. That here in this section of Bhagavatam, Maitreya Rishi, he is the speaker of Krishna Katha. And Vidura, he is the hearer of Krishna Katha. From both sides, there is eagerness to hear. Or from both sides, there is eagerness to hear or talk about Krishna. From Maitreya Rishi's side, he is very eager and enthusiastic to talk more and more about Krishna. From Vidura's side, he is very, very eager to hear more and more about Krishna. And when Vidura, he puts forward questions, further questions about Maharaj Prithu, in today's verse we're hearing that Maitreya Rishi, he feels very happy. So one way the hearer can encourage the speaker to talk more and more is by asking questions. When the hearer of Bhagavatam, he or she asks questions, the speaker, he feels that, if he's asking questions, it means he's eager to hear more. So then the speaker feels more inspired or more enthusiastic to speak more and more about Krishna. So that's what we're hearing about today in the verse. When Vidura became inspired to hear of the activities of Lord Krishna in his various incarnations, Maitreya also became inspired, and being very pleased with Vidura, began to praise him. So when Maitreya Rishi, he was seeing this eagerness from Vidura to hear more about Maharaj Prithu, Maitreya Rishi, he was very, very pleased. It is said that there is many different services we can offer a saintly person. But of all the services, the best service we can offer is to sit in front of a sadhu or to sit in front of a saintly person and hear about Krishna from them. When someone goes in front of a saintly person and very sincerely hears about Krishna from them, that pleases the sadhu the most. And that's what we're seeing today in Maitreya Rishi's case. He is seeing this eagerness of Vidura to hear about Krishna. And seeing this, Maitreya Rishi, he is very pleased. The word used today is Prita Manaha, being very pleased. So this is one way we can very strongly please a saintly person or a devotee of the Lord, is by showing eagerness to hear about Krishna from them. That's why Prabhupada, he used to say that when devotees get together, they should hear and chant about Krishna. They should discuss, Bhagavatam. They should come and discuss, what service they're doing, what they heard or what they read. So like this, devotees, they should discuss. Prabhupada gives the example, 10th canto. I think in 10th canto of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada, one purport, he explains, just like scientists, when two scientists, they come together, or, they have these big conferences, this conference, that conference, and all these different scientists from different parts of the world or from different fields, they will all come together. And what do they discuss in these big conferences? One scientist will discuss about his research work. I'm doing research in heart disease. These are my findings. This is what I discovered. This is what I And then the other scientist will say, I am doing research in, lung cancer. And then he will share his research findings, with the other scientists. So Prabhupada explains when different scientists, they get together in a conference, what do they talk about? They talk about the research, in science, in whatever field they are doing research in or whatever field they are specializing in. So in the same way, Prabhupada explains, when devotees, they get together, they should talk about Krishna. And they should talk and discuss, just like scientists, they discuss what research work they're doing. Same way, devotees, they discuss what they're reading in Prabhupada books. Devotees, they discuss what they are hearing in lectures of Prabhupada or their spiritual master. So same way Prabhupada says, this is what we should be discussing about. One time, there was one servant of Prabhupada. His name was Upendra. And this pastime took place in either in Sydney or Melbourne in Australia. So this person, Upendra, he was actually Prabhupada's personal servant. And he is actually the devotee, along with another devotee, who started ISKCON in Australia. So the way ISKCON started, if you read about the history of how ISKCON started in Australia, Prabhupada sent 2 devotees from America to come to Australia to start the Hare Krishna movement. So these 2 devotees, they're like the fathers of ISKCON in Australia. They single-handedly started ISKCON here in Australia. So both of them are from America, both of them are Americans. One of these devotees' name is Upendra. The second devotee's name is Bali Mardan. So if you read Kurma Prabhu's book, The Great Transcendental Adventure, we have that in stock in our book cupboard. In that book, Kurma Prabhu, he gives the whole history of Prabhupada in Australia and New Zealand. So these 2 devotees, they started Krishna consciousness in Australia, Bali Mardan and Upendra. So Upendra, he was the personal servant of Srila Prabhupada. So one time Srila Prabhupada was here in Australia, either it was in Sydney or Melbourne, and Upendra was in the kitchen. And he used to cook for Srila Prabhupada every day. And in the kitchen there were some other devotees. And Prabhupada was nearby, and Prabhupada could hear Upendra giggling and laughing, and talking about something in the kitchen. And then Prabhupada was upset, and then Prabhupada immediately called Upendra to his room. Prabhupada could hear, whatever conversation was going on in the kitchen. And then Prabhupada immediately called Upendra to his room. And then Prabhupada started chastising Upendra by telling him that, what is all this I'm hearing you guys talk about in the kitchen? This is all prajalpa. And then Upendra Prabhu, he asked Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, we were just discussing about other devotees, Is that also considered as prajalpa? Is talking about other devotees also considered as prajalpa? Because devotees are devotees, they're spiritual. So if I talk about other devotees, that's also Krishna Katha, right? And then Prabhupada says, no, talking about devotees, that is also prajalpa, This devotee is doing this devotee is doing that, she is doing that. Or did you find out that she moved out from here, or he moved out from there, now he's living there, she's living there, or he lost his job, he's doing that now he's doing this degree, So all this kind of talk, about who is doing what and what is happening in some person's life, or what mistakes someone else did, or, all these talks about other devotees, Prabhupada says, this is not Krishna Katha, this is actually prajalpa. And then Prabhupada told Upendra then Prabhupada started preaching to Upendra about the dangers of talking prajalpa. In Nectar of Instruction, right, Rupa Goswami, he talks about 6 things that will cause an obstacle, or 6 things that will make us go backward in our spiritual life. One of those 6 things is prajalpa. How does that verse start? Achyahaya prayasascha prajalpa niyamagraha jana sangascha lolyamcha sadbir bhakti vinasyati. So sadbir bhakti vinasyati. Vinasyati means it will destroy. So Rupa Goswami says, if we do any one of these 6 things, it will destroy our bhakti. Sadbir bhakti vinasyati. So very scary, right? That we practice, we put so much hard work and endeavor, we grow in our spiritual life, and if we do any one of these 6 things, sadbir bhakti vinasyati, it can immediately, destroy whatever bhakti we have accumulated. It will make us go backwards, actually. So Rupa Goswami, he warns against these 6 things. So one of them is achyahara. Achyahara means to overeat, or to over-endeavor for material things. Achyahara prayasascha. Prayasascha means that also working very hard for material ambitions, to be very materially ambitious. And then comes prajalpa. So prajalpa is given as the 3rd item. Speaking about things not related to Krishna. So speaking about devotees that, he's doing that, that's happening in this person's family, they're doing that, that's all considered as prajalpa. So like this, Prabhupada was explaining to Upendra, and Prabhupada was telling Upendra, you should talk about Krishna, you should share what you're reading in Bhagavatam or hearing in lectures. And Prabhupada was telling Upendra, before, I remember you used to memorize slokas very nicely and you used to recite slokas so nicely. Why don't you start memorizing slokas again, from Bhagavatam? In this way, use your time, instead of talking Prajalpa. Then Upendra told Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, I'm too lazy. I don't feel like, memorizing slokas. I'm too lazy to read and memorize. And then Prabhupada immediately cuts Upendra and tells him, no, that's not true. You're not lazy. You're just misdirecting your energies. So in this way, Prabhupada explains that actually, strictly speaking, no one is actually lazy, because the nature of the soul, as Krishna explains in 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? There's one verse. I forgot how the verse starts, but in one verse in 3rd chapter of Gita, Krishna explains that the nature of the soul is to be active. The soul can never sit in one place and do nothing. So the soul always has to be doing something. So in that sense, Prabhupada was explaining that actually no one is lazy, because the nature of the soul is to be active. So the soul always has to be doing something. So if someone says they're lazy, it just simply means they're just misdirecting their energies. So if you ask someone to clean and they say, oh, sorry, I'm too lazy, I don't feel like cleaning. The actual fact is, it's not that they're lazy, it's just that they want to direct their energies to something else. They want to direct their energies to watch some videos on YouTube, or to space out, or to do something else. That's what it actually means. So in this way, Prabhupada explained to Upendra that when you say you're lazy and you don't feel like reading, you don't feel like memorizing slokas, what it actually means is that you're just simply misdirecting your energies. Instead of directing your energies to talking about Krishna, instead of directing your energies to memorizing slokas, you're directing your energies towards talking Prajalpa. So simply channelize your energy in the right direction. This way Prabhupada, he preached to Upendra Prabhu. So that same instruction of Prabhupada we can all take to our hearts, because we're also all guilty of talking Prajalpa. Right? So we need to also be conscious of this and train ourselves to always talk about Krishna. So I will just read a certain section of the purport. Prabhupada writes in the purport, talks of Krishna Katha, topics about Lord Krishna, his incarnations, is spiritually so inspiring that the reciter and hearer are never exhausted. That is the nature of spiritual talks. We have actually seen that one can never become satiated by hearing the conversations between Vidura and Maitreya. In Bhagavatam, actually, it's given that one of the symptoms, or in Shastra it's said that one of the symptoms of a person making advancement is, like many times we have this question, how do I know whether I'm making spiritual advancement or not, right? So this is one question all of us have in our mind, that I've been practicing for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. How do I know whether I'm actually making progress? Initially when I was practicing, we can easily see ourselves making progress. Like initially we chanted 1 round, then we moved to 4 rounds, then 8 rounds, then we hit 16 rounds. So initially in the first 6 months, 1 year, we can see progress, in terms of numbers. Okay, initially I was doing 1 round, now I'm doing 8 rounds, now I'm doing 16 rounds, Initially I was not coming for Mangalati, now I'm coming for Mangalati every day, So initially, in the initial stages of bhakti, it's easy to kind of figure out, how we're advancing based on the number of rounds we're chanting, on how many programs we're attending, or how much reading we're doing. But after a while, after we hit 16 rounds, we're just doing the same thing again and again, right? Every day we just chant the same 16 rounds. Every day we hear the same Bhagavatam class, read the same books. So later on, how do we know, or how can we judge whether we're making spiritual advancement? So one symptom Shastra gives by which we can tell we're making spiritual advancement is by our eagerness to hear about Krishna Katha. The more we are eager to hear about Krishna Katha, the more we are making spiritual advancement. This is a statement of Rupa Goswami, and the same statement is also there in 10th canto of Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami glorifies Maharaj Parikshit in 10th canto of Bhagavatam by telling Parikshit Maharaj that, my dear Parikshit Maharaj, you're actually a very, very great devotee. You're a great Mahabhagavat. Why? Because you have this symptom. Which symptom? you have this symptom of Mahajans, which is that although you have heard these pastimes many times, still when you're hearing the same pastime from me, you feel as if you never heard this pastime before. With that eagerness, you're hearing these pastimes of Krishna. Therefore, you're a great devotee of the Lord. So this is a symptom, or this is one criteria by which we can judge whether we're making spiritual advancement. So we ourselves can be a bit introspective and ask ourselves, how eager am I to hear about Krishna? How eager am I to hear Bhagavatam? How eager am I to read about Krishna from Prabhupada's books? How eager am I to hear lectures? If we have that enthusiasm, that eagerness to hear about Krishna, that means we're in healthy condition. We're practicing bhakti nicely. If we see our inspiration to attend class going low, if we see our inspiration to read, oh man, I don't feel like reading today. If we see our inspiration to hear lectures, or today I don't feel like listening any lectures, I think I'll just lie back and just relax, just do nothing. If we have that kind of feelings coming in our mind, that means we're becoming sick. Just like our Krishna Das, he's studying medicine, right? He'll be a doctor. So he will judge whether a person is sick or not based on symptoms, right? So you will check the person's blood pressure or heartbeat, or there's so many tests they do, right? So the way to test whether a devotee is sick or healthy is by seeing that devotee's eagerness to hear about Krishna. If a devotee is very, very eager and enthusiastic to hear about Krishna, read about Krishna, then he is very healthy devotee. If a devotee is very, very down and not so inspired to attend class, not so inspired to read, not so inspired to hear, and just wants to space out and, then we know, okay, he's in sick condition. So when that happens, we need to pray to Radha Gopinath, that, inspiration going low, please help me. And one other thing we can do is obviously pray to Radha Gopinath. And second thing we can do, we can try to read or hear with some friends or devotees who we're close to. We can borrow inspiration from other devotees. So although our inspiration might be low, when we associate with other devotees who have high inspiration or enthusiasm, that enthusiasm and inspiration will rub off on us. And our low inspiration enthusiasm will go up actually. That's why Lord Kapila Dev says, right? Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti hitkana rasayana kata tad josana rasu apavarga vatmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramisyati. So in third canto of Bhagavatam, Lord Kapila Dev says that talks about Krishna is especially potent when it's done in the association of other devotees. So yes, we can read Bhagavatam ourselves, hear Bhagavatam ourselves, but when we read and hear Bhagavatam in the assembly of other devotees, that has more potency, that has more power, according to Lord Kapila Dev. So that's why whenever any opportunity comes to hear and chant about Krishna with devotees, we should immediately grasp it. In this way, Krishna will also be very pleased. So we were talking about before that, yes, this eagerness to hear about Krishna, this is one way we can very quickly please a saintly person. So there's many ways one can serve a saintly person, but it's said that the topmost way we can serve a saintly person is by sitting in front of them and hearing about Krishna from them. We see this with Prabhupada's life also. If we read Lilamrit, Prabhupada was obviously in this first meeting with Srila Bhaktisaranta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada immediately accepted him as his spiritual master, that he's my guru, and he just accepted him. But before Prabhupada took initiation, it was like many years actually, for 10, 12 years. Only 10, 12 years after that, Prabhupada got Diksha from Bhaktisaranta Saraswati Maharaj. So during those many years, or that decade, Prabhupada used to still visit his spiritual master whenever he could find time to go away from his family. And Prabhupada used to come and attend his spiritual master's classes. Just like nowadays we have, during Kartik time, we have Parikrama, right? Vrindavan Parikrama of Kartik, during Kartik time. And different Maharajas, they will have their own Parikrama party, right? Like Indradumna Maharaj, he will take a certain group of devotees on Parikrama around Vrindavan and Braj. Dinabandhu Prabhu, he will have his party. Like this, different Maharajas, they will have their own parikrama party. So this all started during Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj's time. So during those times, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he used to have his own Vraj parikrama. And one time, Prabhupada, he was able to attend. He couldn't attend the full parikrama because obviously at that time Prabhupada was a family man, he had his own pharmacy business, he had his family to take care of. So he couldn't just give up everything and attend the whole parikrama. So Prabhupada planned in such a way that he could attend the parikrama for 1 or 2 days, like that. So, and that was towards the end of the parikrama. Prabhupada came and attended. On one of these nights or days of this parikrama that Prabhupada was there, announcement was made that this is right towards the end of the parikrama. Announcement was made that now Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he won't go to the next destination in the parikrama, he will just stay here. Those of you who want to go to the next holy place, you can go ahead and visit the next holy place, the last, tirtha, before we finish the parikrama. But those of you who want to stay and just hear a class from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, you're welcome to stay also. Now, when this announcement was made, pretty much 95% of the people who were there in the parikrama, they all decided to leave and go to the next location, in the parikrama. Because they're there in the mood of, visiting all the tirthas, all the holy places. So they all left that particular camp and they went to the next place. It's mentioned only a handful of people, they stayed back to hear a lecture by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. And Prabhupada, he was one of those persons. Prabhupada mentions when he was hearing that class of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he was the only outsider in the audience. Everyone else who was there, they were just the very close, like sannyasi disciples of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. So he was like the only kind of like outside person, coming and attending. And Prabhupada was explaining, what was going on in his mind. Prabhupada was saying, in his mind, he was thinking that, what will I get, if I just go to the next holy place, what will I see, I don't have the eyes to see. Better I sit here and hear from my Guru Maharaj, So the way you actually see a holy place is through your ears, When you hear sadhus talk about a holy place, then you'll be able to see that holy place with proper vision. Otherwise, with untrained vision, how can we properly perceive the holy place? Just like for an example, all of us, we have a car or we've driven a car. So let's say you open up the bonnet of the car. And there's so many different mechanical things, right, under the bonnet of the car. But because we're not trained in car mechanics, we don't know what this part is, that part is, this part, It's just all random mechanical parts, in the car. But someone who's a car mechanic, who has been trained, someone who has went to school or college and has heard about the science of car mechanics, what different parts is, when he sees those same mechanical parts under the car bonnet, his vision of seeing that is different to our vision. Our vision is just all some metal parts. But his vision is completely different. According to his trained vision, he sees, okay, this is the engine, this is the filter, this is this part, this is that part, this goes to that, this goes to that. So his vision is completely different. Why? Because he has heard about the science of car mechanics from authority. So in the same way, Prabhupada explains that if we go to a holy place, but we don't hear from sadhus about the significance of the holy place, about the importance of the holy place, then what will we actually see? We will just simply see just another place, which seems a little dirty, this and that. But if we hear from sadhus about the importance of the tirtha, then we can actually see with proper eyes actually. So Prabhupada is mentioning, when this question was put forward, that you have two options. Either you can go and visit the next sites in the parikrama, or you can sacrifice that and just come and attend the class. Prabhupada said, I chose to simply attend the class and hear. And Prabhupada mentions he was the only one of the very few people who stayed back to hear the lecture. And Prabhupada heard that lecture. Then fast forward later on, when devotees of Gaudiya Math, they were very happy with Prabhupada. They went to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj and they told Bhakti Saraswati Maharaj that, we have our Abhay Babu, he is a very nice, sincere devotee. He is working and he is donating a lot, to our math. He is helping us in many ways. I think he'll be very good, for initiation. He should get Diksha like this. They were recommending, Prabhupada, or his name was Abhay Babu back then, to Bhakti Saranta Sar Maharaj. When Bhakti Saraswar Maharaj, he heard this, he said, yes, I already know about him. He likes to hear. I have marked him already. Like this Bhakti Saranta Saraswar Maharaj says. So Maharaj's statement was that, yes, I have marked him. He likes to hear. Like this Maharaj said. So whenever someone is very eager or sincere to hear, that very much pleases a sadhu. And Prabhupada writes in his memories, or remembering how he got initiated, that this is something that one way how he very much pleased his Guru Maharaj. He pleased his Guru Maharaj by his eagerness to hear his lectures. And just by that one quality of being very eager to attend his lectures and hear, Prabhupada mentions that his Guru Maharaj marked him out and very easily gave Diksha. So that same eagerness we need to cultivate. As I was explaining, this is the way, according to Shastra, we can know how we are advancing in spiritual life. So that comes to hearing about Krishna. Then there is talking about Krishna. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, he mentions that when we talk about Krishna, there's few things we need to check. There's like a checklist, we need to check. One is, when we talk about Krishna, that talk should be very pleasing to the ear of the person we're talking to. Another checkbox is, that should be authoritative, which means whatever we're speaking should be according to Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. We shouldn't just speculate something or make up something. Whatever we speak should be in line with whatever we learn from Prabhupada or from our spiritual masters. So number one is, it should be pleasing to the ear. So you should present the philosophy in a way that it's attractive to people. Give some nice examples, say some nice pastimes, and speak in a way that will be attractive to people in general. So one is pleasing, another one is authoritative, third one is, third one escapes my mind. But there's another verse actually in 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna also talks about this. Krishna gives his own set of checklists for when we talk about Krishna. Number one, Krishna says, every time we open our mouth and we speak something, those words should be truthful, beneficial, not agitating to others, and should be pleasing. So Krishna gives these 4 criteria. This comes in that verse which talks about the austerity of speech. Austerity of speech involves speaking words that is truthful, beneficial to others, pleasing, and not agitating to others. A 5th one Krishna gives, austerity of speech, is to recite slokas from Shastra. So these are 5 different aspects of speech Krishna talks about in Gita. So whenever we speak to someone else, we should make sure that what we're speaking is truthful. Another thing, we should make sure that whatever we're speaking should be something that is beneficial to the other person. Third thing should be that whatever we speak should be pleasing to the other person. And fourth, it should not be agitating. So sometimes we might have to correct, someone, but when we make that correction, we have to do it in a way that it's kind of pleasing and not agitating to others, So we have to be a little sensitive. So that's why it is said every time we speak, we should think 10 times, or 100 times before we speak. Because our words, if we don't think properly before speaking, it can, affect another person's consciousness. So these are different checklists for speaking actually. Just like, you have your, to get PR here, right? You have to do English test, right? You have to pass English test called PTE or IELTS, right? And only then you can get, that's one of the criteria to get a PR, right? In Australia. So in the same way, to qualify to go back to the spiritual world, we have to sit, Krishna's PT test. Krishna's English exam or speaking exam. Just like in your PT exam, you have different sections, right? There is one section which will grade you for your hearing skills, one section that will grade you for your reading skills, one section that will grade you for your talking skills, right? And if you pass, okay, then you qualify, to get permanent residency. Same way, to go to the spiritual world, there's different criteria that Krishna wants us to meet, One of these criteria is that we have to pass Krishna's speaking test, Krishna's PT exam. So what's Krishna's PT test or speaking exam? Krishna says, whatever you speak should be truthful, beneficial to others, pleasing, and not agitating to others. If you tick these boxes, okay, you get 10 out of 10 for your talking test. Then there is hearing test also. Hearing test, Krishna says, okay, you just simply be always very enthusiastic to hear about my pastimes, hear about my glories. If you are always very sincere and eager to hear about me, then, okay, you will get score 10 out of 10 for your hearing test. So like this, Krishna has his own hearing tests, and talking tests for us to qualify to go to Goloka Vrindavan. Okay, so it's already time to stop here. Gantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Thai Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol. Yes, bro.
Sometimes, I'm like Gurudev is giving one class, and some other another Guru is giving a same class. So there might be a mood of office that who is right and who is wrong. So how do we get right of this office?
So you're saying we hear different speakers talking, and sometimes there's contradiction from one speaker to what one speaker is saying to another speaker. Okay, so Prabhu's question is that we hear different speakers talking from Bhagavatam, but sometimes something that one devotee speaks is contradictory to another, another devotee speaks. So there's different ways we can approach this. One way Shastra explains, this is mentioned by Rupa Goswami in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. He mentions that whenever we come across any contradictions in Shastra, the way to address that is you accept both of them as truth. So sometimes it seems, what to speak of different devotees speaking things that are contradictory. Even in Shastra itself, one Shastra will give one quote, and then another Shastra will give another quote which contradicts that quote. Or even in one Shastra itself, you will get two different verses which contradict each other. So then, how to address this situation? So Rupa Goswami says, whenever we come across any contradictions in Shastra, we should see both of them together. And we should accept both of them as truth. One example is there in 5th canto of Bhagavatam, the story of Maharaj Priyavrata. Okay, so Priyavrata, he was the son of Swayambhu Manu. And he renounced everything and went to do tapasya under Narad Muni's instruction. And obviously Narad Muni, he's a Naistic brahmachari. So Narad Muni is just telling him, keep your life simple, just remain brahmachari lifelong, and just do bhakti and go back to Godhead, Don't worry about all becoming a king and all of this. So he was just in the top of a mountain just doing tapasya. But Swayambhu Manu, he's become old, he wants to retire, he needs someone to take care of the whole universe, there's no one. So he comes to Priyavrata Maharaj and he tells him that, please, you have to become the king, now time for you to become king. And Priyavrata is not listening to his father Swayambhu Manu. Then what happens? Brahma, he himself comes all the way from Brahma Loka to planet Earth. And then Brahma starts telling Priyavrata that this is the desire of the Supreme Lord, you must get married, you must become king. So now Priyavrata, he is in a difficult situation, right? On one side he has his Guru Maharaj, Narad Muni, and he's telling him, just accept the life of renunciation. On the other hand, he has Lord Brahma, who is the father of his Guru Maharaj, and who is a Mahajan also. And Brahma is telling him the opposite thing. Brahma is telling him, get married and rule the kingdom, become the king of the entire universe. So who should he follow? Should he follow Narad Muni or should he follow Lord Brahma? Both of them are giving two contradictory instructions. So my Guru Maharaj, he quotes this statement by Rupa Goswami in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, that whenever any contradictory instructions come, the way to address that, according to Shastra Parampara, is you try to put both of them together. And that's what Priyavrata Maharaj did. On one side, he's getting instruction for renunciation. On the other side, he's getting instruction to be the ruler of the universe. So he does both together. He becomes the emperor of the entire universe, but he takes up that service in the mood of renunciation. So in that way, he doesn't also disobey the instructions he has gotten from Narad Muni. So he was able to, using his spiritual intelligence, put both of those two things together. So he was able to rule, and at the same time, while ruling, he was still able to maintain his renunciation. He was not getting sidetracked by sense gratification or material attachments. So same way, sometimes our spiritual master might say something, or one sannyasi might say something, another sannyasi might say something different. It might seem contradictory, but we can try to see both of them together. And if we're not able to put those two things together, then we can talk to our mentors, we can talk to our spiritual master and say, I've heard one devotee saying like this, another devotee saying like this, how I should see these two things together. And they can help us put those two things together. Okay. Yeah. So how to overcome prajalpa, how to stop talking prajalpa? You just make an attempt, Krishna will help us. Prabhupada says, you take one step towards Krishna, Krishna will take 10 steps towards you. So you got the first step right, which is that you notice yourself having the disease, right? So that's the first step to rectification. First step is to understand that, yes, I have a problem. Okay, my problem is I'm talking too much prajalpa. Okay, so first step we got right. Then you take the next step, which is you make some endeavor to stop talking prajalpa. So next time you talk with devotees, you be conscious of what you're talking and try to talk something, in relation to service or in relation to what you're hearing or reading or in relation to what you heard from your Guru Maharaj, or you can ask the other devotee, what are you reading, what are you hearing? So just make some kind of endeavor to talk about Krishna. Krishna will see you sincerely trying to make some endeavor to stop your prajalpa, and Krishna will help you 10 times more from his side. So in this way, we will overcome the bad habit. But we must make some endeavor from our side. We can't just say, oh, Krishna, you do everything. So that's not what happened in Kurukshetra, right? Arjuna had to take the first step. Then Krishna helped Arjuna. So from our side, we need to put some endeavor. Okay? So we need to catch ourselves when we talk prajalpa, and we should make at least some endeavor to talk about Krishna. Then Krishna, he's there within our hearts, right? So he'll notice, hey, this Siko, do you see? He'll tell Radharani, do you see he's making effort to stop talking prajalpa? He's making effort to talk about glories. Let's bless him fully with our blessings. Then Krishna will take 10 steps towards us. This way we will overcome all bad habits. So that first step we need to take. So just make some kind of endeavor. Can be anything. Just make some kind of sincere endeavor. Can be something even small. Krishna, noticing that, will give us 10 times more blessings. Will take 10 steps towards us. Then we take another small endeavor. Then Krishna will give again more blessings. And this way we can overcome any kind of bad habit or anartha. Okay? Yes, Mahi. Okay, so Mataji is saying she has one friend, and this friend is a devotee of Lord Shiva, and this friend is saying, in Shiva Purana it's mentioned Shiva is supreme, Narad Muni is saying Shiva is supreme. So it's confusing, because different Puranas are saying different things. So in that sense it's confusing for us. And she's also asking how can we help this person come to bhakti, accept Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead. So regarding the first point, Prabhupada mentions that the Vyasadeva, he's written 18 different Puranas. And these Puranas, just like in school, right, you'll have different textbooks, right? And different textbooks, they're meant for different class of people, For year 10 maths, you have one textbook. For year 9 maths, you have one textbook. For year 7, 8 maths, you have one textbook. So based on one's level of consciousness, you give them one particular textbook. So in the same way, Prabhupada explains that these 18 Puranas, they're divided into 3 sections. There is 6 Puranas for those in the mode of ignorance. There is 6 Puranas for those in the mode of passion. And there is 6 Puranas for those in the mode of goodness. So why did Vyasadeva write all these different Puranas for different people in different modes? Because not everyone will be in the same frequency. Not everyone will be in the same mode of consciousness. So Vyasadeva, as an avatar of the Supreme Lord, he's very compassionate. He wants to help everyone, some or other, rise in their spiritual life. So not everyone can immediately just go jump, straight to bhakti. So for these other kind of people in lower modes, he has written other Puranas, So there are 6 Puranas which are those for those in mode of ignorance, 6 for those in the mode of passion, then 6 for those in mode of goodness. So our Srimad Bhagavatam, it comes in one of those 6 Puranas for those in the mode of goodness. So these other Puranas, they're helping these people in lower modes. So it's given, Prabhupada explains that Lord Shiva, he is the topmost Vaishnava, so that's why you'll see many statements in different shastras where different sages or rishis, they will glorify Lord Shiva, as the greatest. Why? Because he's such a great personality, he's the greatest of all devotees. And also he's a Guna avatar, right? So Krishna has different avatars, Shaktavesh avatar, Manvantra avatar, Leela avatar, and there's also Guna avatar. So Brahma, he is considered as the avatar of Krishna in mode of passion. Shiva is the avatar, Guna avatar of Krishna in mode of ignorance. So in that sense, also one can call Krishna as supreme, because he is the avatar of Krishna. So in that sense, speaking, technically it's not wrong. So, but these Puranas, they focus on different personalities to help people in lower modes, Because generally speaking, the mass of people, they're very attached to material sense gratification, right? And for them to give up, it's difficult. So what the Shastra does, it will try to bring them gradually, to the path of bhakti, where there is no sense gratification, where everything is fully for the sense gratification of Krishna, no sense gratification for me. For someone to fully surrender like that, not everyone can do immediately. So that's why these other Shastras, like the Vedas, these other Puranas, they help these persons gradually come. Okay, you want this material desire? Okay, worship this demigod, do this yagna, do this puja, you will get. Slowly, slowly, after doing this karma kanda activities, they will come to a realization that actually there's nothing to this, this is all just temporary. Whatever material benefits I get from the demigods, one day will go. What's the whole point? And ultimately, all these demigods, they're all servants of Vishnu. So why don't I just directly worship Vishnu? So gradually, these people will get that realization. So that's the first point. Second point, how can we help this person come to bhakti? So generally, these persons who are very much attached to a particular demigod, like Shiva, Durga, Ganesh, they've been cultivating this attachment for many years, So for them to just like that, give up their Ishtadev and just come to Krishna is very difficult. So we need to be patient with them and give them some time. And if they're not open to hearing philosophy, then Prabhupada says if someone is not open for philosophy, then you will bring them to kirtan. Someone is not open to kirtan also, then you give them prasad. Okay, so at least we can start by giving them prasad. That's how I started. I was not interested in philosophy. I was like very, like atheistic, you could say. I didn't want to do any kind of religious thing, but my parents were coming to temple and they were forcing me to come. And I had to come because my parents were coming. And I didn't want to hear anything, or attend any kirtan, so I used to just be outside. And I was bored, I didn't know what to do. I have to spend 2 hours on Sunday. So to pass my time, I just used to serve the prasad. Back then, they used to sell the prasad, I think for $8 a plate. But if I help serve the prasad, then I can get the prasad for free, and I can take as much prasad I want at the end. So that's what I used to do. I used to just come and just take prasad and help serving prasad. So for those who are not interested in philosophy, not interested in kirtan,